So we recently had a big Armenian wedding in our family. If you have ever witnessed an Orthodox ceremony or seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you know that there's a point where the priest places crowns upon the head of the bride and groom, who then touch their foreheads together as the best man, also called Godfather, holds a cross above their crowned heads. The crowns symbolize marriage as a new kingdom, a realm of love, while the cross above them conveys that there is one kingdom above all, which is the realm of God. Well, not just for weddings, but such imagery lies at the heart of this day in the church, the feast of Christ the King. Established by Pope Pius XI in 1925 as a permanent feast in the Roman calendar. The Episcopal and Lutheran churches soon followed. And why was Pius so determined to establish the feast of Christ the King? Well, dictatorship, ultranationalism, and fascism were on the rise, including forced exile of human beings based on race, ethnicity, and religion. 3 years earlier, Benito Mussolini had risen to power, and Joseph Stalin had already begun the Great Purge, a terror campaign of repression, persecution, and executions that would ultimately claim over 1 million lives. And a 36-year-old Adolf Hitler had just published Volume 1 of Mein Kampf, his personal story and his vision for a new Germany. Amidst all that, Pius wanted an emphatic theological and political statement which would stand for all of time, that no matter who claims a crown on earth, only the way of the Christ truly reigns above all. We trust that Pius was moved by true concern about the threat of self-proclaimed messiahs, but we might remember that the emblem of his own office also involved a crown. With the physical person of Jesus gone, someone would have to stand as his regent on earth. And the institutional church across denominations has always been willing and eager to claim that crown for itself and wear the resplendent clothing to go with. Just as a bride and groom, king or queen, might be lavishly dressed in vestments of ceremony or office, we sometimes see Jesus himself depicted that way, wearing a gold crown and lush robes of royal authority. And in that view, he usually stands straight and tall, holding an orb representing the world in one hand and pointing upward in a gesture of blessing with the other. This view is Christus Rex, Christ the King, powerful in triumph. But there are other perspectives, other depictions, in which the Christ wears a simple tunic and carries a staff, surrounded by a flock or by children. In these images, he is often not standing but kneeling, and he does not point up but reaches out. This is Christus Pastore, Christ the Shepherd, powerful in compassion. We have both depictions reflected in our stained glass windows in this church. So which one do we follow? Triumphant king or tender shepherd? Well, Episcopalians do not generally embrace questions posed this way, believing that wisdom is less often found in the either or than in the both and. We claim what is called the via media, or middle way. And this is not ambivalence or a reluctance to offend, nor is it the stuff of weak compromise. It is to seek a more dimensional response than any extreme can offer on its own. So to that question, which one do we follow? Our answer is both. We follow Jesus, the tender shepherd, who is the Christ, triumphant, yes, but triumphant in the way of love. A way which we as Christians vowed at our baptism and reaffirm at every baptism we attend. And given those promises to follow the way of Jesus, made and remade, we dare not support any position or would-be king which would insult, oppress, or marginalize fellow human beings, or threaten the health and welfare of God's gift of creation. And no, that is not naivete or political correctness, nor is it partisan politics. This is just the gospel. A message I have preached on this day, one way or another, every single year since arriving as your rector. And thus far, to nary a complaint. I do wonder if that might change now. I hope not. Because, of course, we are entirely free to admire other crowns and to commit our human souls to other ways. We are free to do that. But not in the name of the Christ who utterly rebuked them. We cannot have it both ways. Because once we start down that road, we draw dangerously close to aligning ourselves with the screaming crowds who wanted Jesus to pick up a sword, push past Pilate, lead an insurrection, and steal an earthly crown of power for himself. But instead of a sword or scepter, he chose a shepherd's crook to gather the entire flock within the pasture of justice, mercy, and peace. And upon his head was not a crown of gold, but a crown of thorns, perfectly fitting one who knew he could not have it both ways and had to choose. And we know the way he chose. Unto his very last breath, Jesus refused to bow his head to any realm which would demean, oppress, or harm even one member of the flock. He paid with his human life, yes, but saved his eternal soul, thereby showing us a way to save ours. And so on this feast day, we bow our heads under the cross which is lifted above us. We honor our triumphant shepherd, whose crown and scepter always and only point to the way of love. Such is our King, our true King, and long may he reign. Amen.